7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So here's the deal. I'm trying it on my mobile hotspot. And normally I got the whole Wi-Fi thing going. I'm back at my home studio. I'm all glad to be back home, and I've been having some Wi-Fi glitchiness. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do the mobile hotspot thing. Well, switching over to the mobile hotspot, the whole system just kind of went sideways, all ready to go and everything here on Do Not Talk. I'm CharLee Simons, by the way, your host here on the show that does talk about two things you're never supposed to talk about: politics and religion. One decides what life is going to be like here on earth. The other one decides what it's going to be like when you leave it. Or if you're not so far, start talking about it, would you? Come on. Get involved. Like my friend Kevin Cooper at Wake Up Placer, wakeupplacer.com. I know, just a little Northern California thing. Nobody cares about California, CharLee. California's a waste anyway. We're not even going to try. That's the worst attitude ever, especially when I hear my own Republicans, my own fellow Republicans say crap like that. Oh, what does it matter? We don't even have any effect on the presidential election. Stop talking about the presidential election. Start talking about local. Local action equals national impact. Start taking care of your own backyard, please. Start getting involved in primary elections. Very important. That's how we decide who's going to the big election, is at the primary. And at least on the Christian side of things, only about 40% of us who claim to be Christian are even registered to vote. Yeah. And then when it comes to primary elections and midterms, it's in the teens. It's dismal. It's ridiculous. Just the Christians alone could completely turn this state around in an election or two. What about school board meetings? What about school boards? What about board of supervisors running your county? And you get to elect them, and you can't bother to vote for them. You can't even bother to do a little research on them. Mike Murray was a great conservative running for Placer County, where Kevin Cooper is running for the board of supervisors, didn't win. I don't get it. Placer County, what's happened? They've been infiltrated and inundated with people from the Bay Area who are bringing their dumbass politics with them. And another example is city council. Have you ever even been to a city council meeting? If you have cable, remember the city council meetings on the cable channel? Did you ever actually watch any of them? No, most likely no. Have you ever even been to one? Come on, why not? Go find out what it's like. Get involved. And I love Kevin Cooper. He is no holds barred, in your calls it like it is, and he makes enemies that way sometimes, which is just fine with me because I've been accused of being that way myself. As a matter of fact, I'm probably a little too blunt for Kevin's taste. However, this man puts his personal life aside and has started up a website called wakeupplacer.com. That's all he talks about, and almost exclusively local races, because he realizes that that's the absolute most important thing you could ever run for. The most important thing, because it's deciding who's going to be calling the shots for our children. That's how the Communist Manifesto, man. Take over the kids. Take over the education of the kids. You can flip a nation in a generation or two. All you got to do is teach the kids what you want them to learn. Grooming, whatever else, fill in the blank. We're seeing it staggering numbers in public education. Numbers, infiltration, horrible, turning our children against our own United States of America. It's so bad. And it's the teachers and it's the administrators, and they are not doing this by accident. And if anybody, before I go any further, I always get these kind of emails, these kind of comments at my website, charleesimons.com. There's basically good teachers. They're mostly good teachers. No. You know why? They were fired during COVID. The good teachers, the good medical staff, the good doctors, the good nurses, they were fired, frickin' fired. The good government employees fired during the COVID shutdown because they wouldn't take the shot. Who did they replace them with? People who would comply, people who whatever they wanted, people who had an agenda. If you're in public education, you're not in it. So go to wakeupplacer.com. This gentleman right here, Kevin Cooper, he runs that group, that great group of reporters and people just calling the shots, doing God's work. What you're doing, Kevin. Hello.
Hey, Charlie. Thank you. Look, I think that the most important thing that you do, you're one of the few
You're
people
welcome. Move
that,
your microphone up a little bit, would you?
yeah, sorry. Um, you know,
Move your mic
one
up.
of the most,
There
is
you
that
go.
better? Better?
No, that's good. That's fine.
Move up?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. Good.
So there's very few people.
You're on, time waster.
Hey, so I think that the big thing is that you are one of the few people that are out there engaging with leaders in Placer County and asking for things and pointing stuff out. And so, what we're doing at Wake Up Placer is we're really just sort of trying to bring a written angle to the work that people like you and other podcasters are doing. And so I'm super thankful for it. And I think that you know we have to be very clear and really kind of over communicate about this stuff. Um,
What
so
we
I'm
really
I'm
have to be
thankful for
clear
you.
on
Very
is the
thankful.
stuff that none of the other media will ever report on. And that is something that you put on your website, and that is disclosure of campaign contributions for a little old school board race from people who aren't even in Placer County contributing to a certain or individuals. And why would they be so involved and so interested in who's going to be sitting on school boards and little old districts in Placer County? People like teachers unions and political action committees and some goofball from San Francisco. I don't get it. And you've actually disclosures and you printed them, and I love it. And I'd love for you to go. Let us see these.
Sure. So I have Jen Brookover, who ran last year against in 2024 against Rochelle Price for Rockland School Board, Rockland USD, and you can see that basically between non-monetary and monetary contributions, the teachers raised $59,000 essentially, but 30,000 of that came from the teachers, right? They paid for all sorts of things to support her, and
What are the
they
and what is this
basically,
candidate like? Why
well,
would the
so
teachers be so hell bent on this one candidate as opposed to the other?
well, I think they wanted both Jen Brookover and Price Johnson because the Rockland Unified School District Board took a position that basically said, look, if a child is talking with some staff member or a teacher about their gender, the parents need to be informed. Whereas
Hmm.
and they see that our board in Rockland sees that as a right issue of a parent. The teachers have argued, at least in the state of California, semi-successfully, that the child has some right to have protection around these gender conversations. But the big issue is that once you move from state courts to federal courts, the federal law is very clear that students don't have those rights. So the idea that uh, the school teachers would spend 30 grand and then raise an additional 30 grand, so 60 grand per candidate was spent to try and get uh, Jen Brookover and Price Johnson elected. 55,000, 59,000. So essentially 60 grand a candidate.
And again, though, asking why would teachers who are, as I keep hearing, basically good people, why would teachers be so hell bent on getting somebody elected to the school board who is going to continue this whole grooming crap and don't let the parents know anything that's going on? Who are these teachers?
So, I mean, that's so my argument has always been that parents need to know that essentially this is the kind of pressure that's being put on the local school board. And parents need to ask the teachers, do you really support this? So if we agree that, people on, I think the conservative side want to say that teachers unions are different than teachers. Okay, that's fine. Then what we have to do is we have to look at the teachers that teach our kids and say, did you know that in the average race in Rockland, the average school board race in Rockland, the person raises, if you raise $15,000 to run for school board in Rockland, you've done a bang up A+ job. So the idea that someone raised 5 or 6 times for that is insane. I mean, it's like bringing, you know, $1 billion to the campaign. I mean, I can't overstate or over comment on the idea that basically the teachers basically gave 30 grand each to Price Johnson and then 30 grand to Jen Brookover, and then went out and raised in the community another 30 grand. Now, some of that money came from places, as you pointed out, outside of the city, but that's just a crazy amount of money, especially because during the last year, the state of California came in, and what they did is we were an at-large election system for Rockland Unified School District. And what they did is they changed it to a district system where now each of the Rockland Unified trustees represents a smaller section of Rockland. And so in 2020 and
So
2022,
they've
during the last
gerrymandered.
elections,
They've
yeah,
gerrymandered the school board elections.
yeah, they did. But the point that I would make is, so if there's 30 or 40,000 voters in Rockland, and if you raise $15,000, you could get elected to school board. Now you only have to get, you're in a district that's maybe got 7 to 8,000 voters in it. And so they raised 5 times as much, 4 times as much, and there's a lot less voters. I mean, basically you're paying, $10 a voter, $20 a voter, which is just crazy. I mean, you might as well just bribe people at that point. I mean, it's an insane amount of money, and you have to ask yourself, why would the teachers care so much? Why would
Which
this
is
be
my
such a big deal?
question.
Now,
Which is the next question.
yeah.
Yeah. No, fifty-six
Well, I think
thousand
that part of the
dollars
reason is,
per year.
yeah.
Where does that go? How does that help somebody get elected to a school board? It's not like you can buy on a local
Well, so
radio station because there is no more local radio station super serving that tiny market, comparatively speaking, to the state of
well,
California.
so they sent out postcards and mailers. They put up at Highway 65 and Highway 80, kind of near the Roosevelt Galleria. There's one of those large TV billboards. They ran ads there for each one of these candidates because there's probably 100,000 people that drive past that billboard every day.
And none of these candidates have to declare or disclose what their political leanings are. It's supposed to be nonpartisan, which I hate that. I don't accept that. So all they have to do is, use the right colors up there or say the right thing. Cares about the kids, some syrupy so and so, and people will get right in line. Is that true? Are they really that ignorant, and are they really that easily swayed? Yeah, yeah, actually,
Well,
they
well, well,
are.
well. So actually, so the good news is that uh, Trustee Price and Trustee Hupp won, despite the fact that they got outspent 3 or 4 to 1, right? But part of what we did is at Wake Up Placer is we took
Price
video
one,
from each
price
one of the
one.
candidates. Yeah, Rochelle Price and
Mm.
Julie Hupp both won, despite the fact they were, especially
Oh, not
Trustee Hupp was attacked
excuse
in
me, not
national
not
media.
Price Johnson then. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, not
Julie Hupp
Price
is
Johnson.
wonderful. I
So
love.
Price,
Okay, good. Thank you, Lord.
yeah. So Jim Brookover and Price Johnson lost by more than they lost by 16 points each. which is a drubbing, right? So in Rockland Unified
Despite all
School
that
District
money that they
history,
spent. Oh, thank
yes.
you, Placer. I love it.
Well, and we're going to take some
That's
credit. Mike
exciting.
Murray. Well, there's a lot of people that need to get credit for this. So Mike is a dogged, good guy at the county and city level, and he worked very hard to get the word out. We at
And
Wake
should
Up
have won.
Placer
And
partnered
should have won.
with. Yeah, he should have won. He's a good guy. And you know,
Mhm.
um, Wake Up Placer worked with Moms for Liberty, and we basically wrote a bunch of stuff and sent it out. Moms for Liberty had a pack they sent out. We had a pack that we sent out to every elected official from Kevin Kiley
Good.
down. So if you were in Lincoln on the city council, we sent you a packet. If you were on the school board in Auburn, we sent you a packet to point out, hey, this is what's going on. And then the other thing we did that I think was pretty smart is one of the guys on our staff basically cut video from each of the school board meetings where people like, uh, you know, Jen Brookover, there's a lady, her name is Mona DeMarcos from Dry Creek, who's a teacher who is pushing for stuff. And we basically cut their comments and we gave them, we didn't like, you know, we didn't do any jump cuts or anything. We just said, okay, look, they spent 5 or 10 minutes talking in their school board meeting, and this is what they said. So you need to get a chance to hear this, parents. And we've had about
Mhm.
3,000 people look at that over the last year and a half, right? And so while we're sort of bummed because people like the Rockland Chamber of Commerce supported Price Johnson with cash donations and communication about quote unquote what a good person he'd be for the school board, by and large, a lot of people came out. Mike,
Anymore,
who
I'm
is
I'm
also
sorry. I don't want to say this for every single chamber of commerce, but for the most part, I look at all of them sideways now. All of them. They seem to
well,
be completely taken over by the left, and I'm not, of course, not all of them, but I'm just telling you, with my experience, and I used to be an ambassador, and I don't recognize the Chamber of Commerce anymore. I don't take that. So I'm just telling you, in the future, if they support someone and they go, oh, this is the person to vote for, run away. My
well,
opinion
so what
only.
we did is we over communicated to them. We did it in the last election too. So what we do is we send packets to the Chamber of Commerce and to large businesses and say, hey, this is what's going on. And if this person gets elected, you need to know what they stand for. Right. And so that worked because in 2020, when Julie and Rochelle ran, the Rockland Chamber of Commerce supported Julie and Rochelle. But then I think what ended up happening is the chamber decided to support Rochelle and not Julie because there was a national media attack on Julie. So Trustee Hupp was featured in articles as far away as Georgia saying that she's just an evil Mormon person and that she shouldn't be trusted. And I'm like, you guys are nuts. She's a great person. She's asking Christians to come down and be involved in the community. And that's not something that she should be hammered for, but she was. It was pretty ruthless.
I remember
And
that.
so,
How did that
remember that?
conveniently get to all these other press sources all across the country? Yes, I remember it.
You
It
know,
was weird.
I mean, so we actually did some work because it was pretty clear that Google, the algorithm, when you typed in Trustee Hupp for Rockland Unified School District, there were 6 pages of articles that came up saying that Julie is a terrible, evil, bad person. And I'm like, that's
You know why I
crazy,
think they
right?
do that?
There's no way.
The reason why I think they do that is because they know that there are Democrats all across the country who will send money to the person that's running against him or her, just like as we saw in the what you put up there with the campaign contributions for Price Johnson, somebody from San Francisco giving money to that campaign, and like you said when we were talking off air, well, it could have been their cousin or something like that, but when you get press like that all across the country, they will send money to your opponent. And I think that's why they do that, why they love to get those kind of stories across the country to get that extra money coming in. But it didn't
That
work.
may be. Well,
It
the
didn't
money
work.
came in and it was pretty harrowing, right? It was pretty tough to see numbers like, $60,000. So this is just again, this line right here represents the total amount. This right here that I've highlighted, this 30 grand, represents the total amount of money that the Rockland Teachers Professional PAC, that's basically in Rockland, even though they say that they're in Sacramento. These are the teachers in Rockland's donations to the union. That's how much they spent in Rockland to unseat Rochelle Price, and then Price Johnson was running
Son of a
against
gun.
Julie Hupp, and they gave him $28,000. Now we also know from the total amount that was raised, right, which was 55,000 for Johnson and almost 60,000 for uh, Brookover, that then another $30,000 per candidate was raised. Now, to your point, maybe they have some weird situation where they're able to go get money out of other states. What I want parents in Rockland to understand is that that is a crazy amount of money. It's 6 times more than you would ever
For a
expect
little school board race.
for
Yeah.
its for
Right.
10,000 kids. But part of what's going on is I think that the Attorney General Bonta was super frustrated with the Rockland Unified School Board because they wrote a really good parental policy that basically was very tight to the federal laws that just basically said, look, teachers can't withhold information from parents.
The guidelines.
And while Bonta,
Right.
yeah, but federal law. And so while Bonta made a bunch of noise and the teachers made a
Right.
bunch of noise about it being quote unquote illegal, none of the teachers ever said, well, what happens if the Rockland Unified School District decides to move this litigation venue from state court to federal court? Well, right now, uh, Travis Monette, who is one of the teacher leaders, is going into every school board meeting saying that basically the teachers, or excuse me, the Rockland Unified School Board's evil and terrible. They're taking students' rights, and they shouldn't be moving this litigation into the federal courts because it's going to cost so much money. But the nasty truth is, number one, there's already been a set of federal court challenges to this kind of stuff, and basically parents' rights wins, and a really good group of pro bono attorneys have basically come out and said, we'll fight this for you at no cost. And the teachers are trying to portray this as, well, we're going to do this. If the Rockland Unified School Board does this, there'll be less teachers or we're going to lose money, which is, it's just a farce. It's a narrative. So the teachers have been really good at creating a narrative that says the Rockland Unified School Board is forcing teachers to do stuff that isn't healthy, not good for kids, and it's going to cost all this money. When in reality, the groups that have spent the most money are the Rockland teachers themselves. And this report, which basically has to be filed by every candidate, shows how much money the teachers were willing to spend to beat Rochelle Price and Julie Hupp. And it's an insane amount of money. I can't, like I said, normally a person in this position running for these positions would raise maybe $10,000. A plus candidates maybe raise $15,000. And they don't have anywhere near the amount of teachers. So there's between 100 and 150 teachers is our understanding of how many teachers went out to try to communicate that, this was a vital thing that had to be defended. That both.
Now, this
Julie,
is a political action committee associated, I'm quite convinced, with the union, probably the CTA, California Teachers Association, which is the
yeah.
largest union in the nation. And the feeling I would get if I had a student that's in any unified school district in Placer Public Schools, the teachers are dead set against me as a parent. But how much of these donations that this political action committee gave to these opposing school board races, how much actually was from the teachers themselves, or actually from a union? Do we know?
Well, so what I would say is the following. So if you can see my screen, this is from Jen Brookover, and the political action committee that gave her or spent $30,000 on our campaign, including $10,000 on a billboard, $11,000 on a billboard. It's the Rockland Teachers PAC. So that money is coming from the dues and contributions of teachers in Rockland. This isn't coming from some statewide or federal bag of money. So again, this $30,000, which was spent on mailers, on a billboard, a digital billboard near the mall, came from Rockland teachers. They pay money to their local union. Here's the name of their PAC, Rockland Teachers Professional Association Political Action Committee. You can look this up on the county website. All you got to do is go to the county website and look up who gave money to who, right? And so, in addition to the regional and national media tax, whether it's through Google or through TV media or talk show people, there's actual cash money that went and was spent and or collected from Rockland teachers and spent in Rockland to get rid of or to remove uh, Trustee Price and Trustee Hub, which is just an insane amount of money.
I'm going to make a blanket statement here. It sounds to me like the teachers themselves are our enemies.
You know, I don't like to you know me, I get uncomfortable with those kind of statements because the statement I want is I want parents to understand this is going on. And you need to go to the teacher and say, hey, do you support this? If we had 50 parents talk to 200 teachers in Rockland, that'd be about 30% of the teachers in Rockland, and you say, are you okay with this? Chances are the teachers would take action. Instead, you know, we can talk about, you know, hey, the chamber's gone left or the teachers or whatever they are. You know, if we go back to the idea that we have a republic that we can only continue to have if we keep it, it requires us to debate. It requires me to go down and say, hey, do you guys all agree with this? I don't. Right. And until that starts happening, and that's why I'm so thankful for people like you, CharLee, and Marky Phillips and Max Bonetta, and you know all of you that are out there saying, "Hey,
Max
this is what's
Bonilla.
going on."
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think when you and I talked last time, we were talking about COVID, and I pointed out that at the county level, the county spends $1.2 billion every year. 300 or 250 million of that is healthcare. So in addition to whatever the county is spending for their services, then you've got your city council spend, which in Rockland's about 130, 120 million dollars, and then the Rockland Unified School District budget's about 150 million, right? Those are huge numbers. And people in Rockland need to know that, especially because you've got teachers unions spending, you know, I would argue, some people may disagree, that the teachers unions basically raised 60 grand each to get rid of Trustee Hub and Trustee Price. But even if you just say they each spent 30 grand and the rest of the money came in because Jen Brookover and Price Johnson were just great candidates, it's still an insane amount of money. It's crazy. And we need to ask, why was that money collected? What were they planning on getting out of this? Are they really that invested in making sure that kids can talk with teachers and not have to talk with parents about those communications? That seems, I mean, it's not about salary raises this time, because that wasn't even in the teachers' media packs that they were handing out, right? So there's something else going on there. And the scary thing for me, CharLee, is that if they were willing to spend $120,000 to get rid of 2 candidates this year, in 2 years, what are they bringing?
Yeah.
Are they going to start blowing up Teslas?
Right.
I don't know. Right? I don't know.
This is insane. And they have tenure and nobody loses their job no matter what they do, it seems like anymore in the public education system, whether they're teachers or administrators. Good people have been run out, and the people who are now controlling the education of your children, I don't know. If I were in the position where I had school-aged children right now, I would be doing everything I could to get them out of public education. But in the meantime,
It's so
if you
hard.
can't afford that, especially I feel so badly, especially for single parents like my mom was. There's no way she could have done anything like that. And but this is how we have to fight. If nothing else, we gotta try and correct and make sure good people are sitting on school boards, city councils, and board of supervisors. Local, we gotta act local and impact nationally. We've got to. So get involved. Go to wakeupplacer.com. Get some education as to what's happening in public education. WakeUpPlacer.com. Kevin Cooper, anything else you want to leave us with or let us know before we go?
I just want to thank the Republican GOP. I don't always see things the way they do, but they pulled out a lot of stops. Mike Murray, Mark Wright, Lori Wallace. They worked super hard to
You're
get
talking about the Central
Trustee
Committee
Hub.
in Placer County.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Yes.
specifically
Not the
those
state
leaders on the Central Committee.
Central Committee.
Yeah,
Correct.
no,
Yes.
Placer County folks. I mean, they worked very hard to get Jonathan
Yes.
Zackerson elected.
Yes.
Zackerson won by 9 points. Trustee Hub won by 16. Trustee Price won by about 16. And we owe them a lot
That's awesome.
of we owe the people who run, who go through the slings and arrows of this process. We owe them thanks, but then we also owe the Placer GOP and people like Mike Murray a lot of thanks. And I think that I hope that Mike, uh, he runs again, because one of the things I'll just tell you, it was DiMattei, I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, who actually won that seat for the county, right, Charlie?
The farmer, yeah.
Yeah. So that guy doesn't live in Rockland. The seat that was created was designed really for Rockland so that we would have at least one person on the board that would represent us. And then when I asked him about this issue, he said, "Well, I don't really care about this parental rights issue." And I really wish we'd made more about that during the election. And we didn't. And I think we should have, because I think if people had known that he was okay with this kind of stuff, I basically asked him how he felt about what was going on with the landing spot. Remember, we've talked about that a lot, and the DiMattei guy was like, "Hey, that's not such a big deal." I'm like, "It's a huge deal." And one of the things that I think that people at the county realize is that it's very easy to say, "Hey, within our county, we're going to pass some kind of ordinance that says, hey, you guys can't have boys up on stage dancing, or any kid up on stage dancing for money," right? And so I think that again, if my call to action would be to support people like you, send money to CharLee, because clearly money is getting sent to other places like crazy candidates, and then to go talk to the teachers and say, look,
Yeah.
is this true that you guys spent 30 to 60 grand per candidate to get these people elected? And if so, why? What are you getting out of this? Because until we start calling each other out, nothing's going to change.
I agree. And I would like to encourage, you mentioned one of them who actually ran and lost. He would not go on my show because one of his political advisors told him, "Don't. Charlie's too MAGA. He's too conservative. Yeah, you don't need that. You don't want that." I completely and fully disagree. I think this is a time more than ever need to reach out. A couple of these school board candidates you talked about too wouldn't come on my show. So I think that's unfortunate. I think they made a mistake, but at least a couple of them won anyway. But I think people want to know. I do not believe we need to keep saying, "Well, it's a bipartisan race," and it doesn't, or not bipartisan, but it doesn't
Yeah,
matter
non
what party they are, or
no party.
where they lean politically. I think it absolutely matters, especially now
Yeah,
more than
I would
ever.
agree pretty
I'm just throwing
aggressively with
that
that
out there.
statement that we've got
Do
to.
what you want, but
No, no. I mean, I agree with you that basically we need to ask, and it's clear if you take a look at we have a Rumble page with where we cut video out of school board meetings where the candidates like Price Johnson are very clear about how they feel about stuff, right? Because the goal is for them to have their agenda pushed at the school level, right? I mean, if you take over a school board, you got,
how many
at least
people
in
show up at the
Rockland,
school board
13.
meetings? How many people actually show up? How many people actually show up? You got 20,
Hey,
maybe
I
20 people in there. So
well,
this is great
we
that
know
you're
that
doing
bad
this. I
people
love
show
this.
up,
And where's that
right?
Rumble? Yeah, the bad people
It's
do
also
show up
Wake Up
in huge
Placer.
numbers. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah, we had 300 people show up from outside of Rockland essentially to push on our school board a year and a half ago when they passed this
Good.
policy that said that teachers have to talk with parents. 300 people showed up from outside of Rockland, and maybe about 50 people showed up
Where's
from
that Rumble
Rockland to push
channel though,
back.
so we can see this? Where's that Rumble channel so we can see that stuff?
Hang on for a second. I'll pull it up. It's Wake Up Placer at hang on.
So it's
And we're
rumble.com
gonna have
slash wake up placer. That's the usually the format.
yeah,
That's the
hang
usual
on.
format.
Rumble. Yeah.
It's
And I'll
important.
I'll
We got to see this stuff. And you guys are showing up at things that most people don't want to take the time to go to. So at least we can follow along and be more up on what's going on. And I'm telling you what, you don't have to have school age children to be concerned about the education of our young people. All of us should be involved in this. This is imperative.
let me see. Can you see my screen now? I did such a terrible job typing. But
I'm
essentially,
bringing it up right now. There it
yeah.
is.
So what we did is we sliced video from Rockland, Roseville, and Dry Creek and put a combination of different people's comments, right? So in some cases, we put just parents, we put liberal activists, so you can see what they're saying, right? And we've got a lot of
Yeah,
video up
good.
now. It's probably close to 50 or 60. And we're going to be adding more because it's clear that even though Donald Trump won, and every time the idea of removing parents' rights is challenged in federal court, it fails. The teachers are still pushing this, and it's very divisive, right? So if you're a parent, especially a single parent who can't go somewhere else with a different, to a different school, the pressure on you is huge when people like Price Johnson, show up and say, this is what we want to do. Here's the president of the teachers union, Travis Monette, talking about how important it is that the school board, repent of its evil nastiness. You got people from the ACLU showing up in Rockland to hammer our board. You have the county teachers coming. The president of Placer County CTA showed up and said, "You guys are all doing illegal
The little
stuff,"
school board
and
meetings. Why would the ACLU be involved in all that?
because they have time
This is
and they make
crazy.
it a priority. And it's crazy. And parents who don't see that, here we have over the last 2 years, probably 20% of the people that came to just hammer our school board, right? And I would just encourage you. One thing that we're super proud of is like the video we took of the two leaders of the teachers in Placer County, the one in Rockland and the one at the county level. Clearly there's 1,400 views, right?
Can you
And you
bring that
can't.
up? Can we see a little bit of it?
Sure. Let's see if it works. We'll of course have a commercial, but it's a good one. This is about Jesus, right?
It is. It is. Speaking
And
of,
now we've got an advertisement for something else.
okay.
Okay.
All right,
So
here we
you
go.
see how he's being greeted, right? Can you hear
Make
it?
sure the volume's up. Turn the volume up.
I
It's probably
I did.
muted.
The volume is up. Hang on, let me stop this for a second. Yeah, the volume's up. I think part of the problem is that this isn't. I can't link it into the mic. So what I would say is, folks who don't understand or maybe haven't had a chance to get educated on it, what we've tried to do with the 5 or 6 people that are part of Wake Up Placer is cut video and write articles that say this is what they're saying. Right
Yeah.
now, we
Okay.
have attacked the local newspaper because they have basically not shared both sides of the
No,
issue.
of course not.
But
No.
if you want to get educated on what's going on in Rockland, you can go to our website, actually listen to CharLee, send him money, but then more importantly, go to our website, read what we write, and go to the Rumble site and listen. Because here in 11 minutes, you're going to see this guy just in a bombastic, mean, and nasty way, attack all of our school board, with the exception of Trustee Price, or excuse me, Trustee Sutherland,
Really?
excuse me. So Trustee Price, Sahoff, uh, Trustee Counter, and Trustee Hupp, those four folks are amazing. On the far right, you've got the superintendent,
Thank God.
Mr. Stock.
Jason Wedge as well. Jason Wedge is another one. Thank God he's there.
Yeah, well, he's up in Auburn, and God bless him. Yeah, no, he's fighting these same kind
Yeah.
of people, right? And we probably need to try and get some
Yeah.
video of him. I don't live up there, so we've had a little bit of a harder time doing it. But Trustee Sutherland, this lady who's sort of second from the right side of the frame, uh, is liberal and basically supports these kinds of thoughts. And where I'm headed with this discussion is that take 30 minutes as a parent and get educated. Take 5 minutes and look at your kid's teacher and say, look, I'm concerned about this. What's your position? A lot of parents are super concerned that, if they bring it up to a teacher, that it's going to impact their kid. And I get it. You don't have to pick a fight with the teacher. Just ask them, where do you stand on this? It has to be okay for us to disagree, because if we don't take the action to disagree with folks, and somebody spends $60,000 to get a board seat when the conservative candidate's going to raise about $10,000, we're going to lose.
You're right. And pray.
We
Prayer.
can't
This
take
is
that
a
kind of
fight
pressure.
against evil, true wickedness. We
Yeah,
got to pray.
prayer is
We got to pray
a
against
goal.
this evil. Absolutely.
Agreed.
WakeUpPlacer.com. WakeUpPlacer.com. Doing God's work mostly. And Kevin puts in so much time into this. And he's got a business. He's got a business going. He's got a career. He's got money to make. He's got a home to keep going and doing his nonstop, constant remodeling. Um, but he's taking this
It's
time
been
to
a
do
bit of
Wake
an
Up Placer, and
arduous
he's got a
journey.
great staff with him too. You really do
Yeah,
have a
it's
great staff there and a great group of people, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, but
All
I
right,
can't
brother.
over communicate how people like you and the rest of us have to work together to keep talking about these issues. So I'm thankful for what you're doing, Charlie, because even if these other people decide not to
Talking
talk to
about
you,
it.
which I think is a
Exactly.
huge mistake, we got to keep talking about it. God bless you, man.
Yeah. And I'm not going to give up on them. I know that their heart's in the right place. I just think that they're getting some bad advice, but that's all. That's it'll all work out,
Well,
right? If we
hopefully.
pray and we ask the Lord to intervene here and to protect our children. Yeah,
Well, I
very
think something
important.
that's really important to remember is over the
WakeUpPlaster.com.
last year, Charlie, over the last year, you've had, Dr. Malone, you've had the Surgeon General of Florida, you've had these national leaders on your podcast, and it's a message to those of us in Placer County that that's what it's going to take. Right? We've been blessed that we've had people like Mike Murray and Mark Wright and Lori Wallace and
Yep,
you and other people to sort of stand at the
I agree.
gates. But this is not, we can't, there's no way that people in Placer County can think that they can survive another $60,000 per candidate race until we decide to communicate back, right? Until we decide to go into the Chamber of Commerce and into the bigger businesses and into the teachers' lounge and say, "Are you guys really all for this?" And hide behind maybe the federal legislation or the federal legal cases, right? We have to be talking about this. And I think that that's a message that I would take away from watching your podcast, is that people like Malone and others that are coming and saying, look, you guys in Placer County have to talk about this stuff, and you have to be open. We can't
Yeah,
rely on
yeah,
10 people. So I'm thankful for you, Charlie.
exactly. Exactly right. All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. And there you go. Just getting the information out. You do what you want with it. But I would ask that you you follow this channel here on Rumble, rumble.com/DoNotTalk. Please follow this channel. Please share this show. Let others see what's going on. Let others really get educated about what's happening. Go to wakeupplacer.com and get involved. Get involved. This is an imperative time, especially when it comes to protecting children. The Lord's very clear on how he feels about that, isn't he now? May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America, but most importantly, America bless God.